A security guard who found Boyson, as well as the first police officer at the scene, have both detailed the injuries Boyson sustained during the attack. They've each told the court how they found her lying on the ground with her intestines hanging out.
The incident sparked a national outcry and put the little town of Bredasdorp into the spotlight.
A teenager who's had nothing but a difficult life goes out for a fun night with friends. The night was supposed to be fun-filled, with the group dancing, drinking and laughing together. As the group split up, they all thought that that was the best night of their lives. Little did they know that it would be the last for one of them. No one could have imagined the horror that followed. This is the Anene Boyson case. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, my name is Bongi and thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about the case of Anene Boyson, but before I get into the video, you guys already know that this is where I make my usual disclaimer that I mean absolutely no disrespect to anybody that I'm going to be talking about in this video and all the families that were and are affected by this case. This video is purely for educational purposes and all the information was gotten off the internet and simply compiled into one video. With that being said, let's just get right into it. Anene Boyson was born on the 30th of October 1995. Her home life with her biological parents was not the safest. She was surrounded by chronic alcohol abuse by both parents as well as domestic violence. When she was just 3 years old, the situation had escalated and their home was just not at all safe for Anene and her older brother and sister. So social workers had to come in and remove the kids from the care of the biological parents and place them in the care of foster parents. Anene and her older brother were placed in the care of Collier Olivier and their sister was placed with another person. Their parents made very little effort to see the children after they had been separated. Shortly after their separation, Anene's biological mother was arrested for the culpable homicide of a child that she had given birth to after she was separated from her other children. Although Anene's father was still around and not in prison, he barely made any effort to see his other children. Anene's foster mother really loved the children and she treated them as her own. Even though she had financial problems, she would always make sure that the children were taken good care of and they were just well fed. But financial problems were not the only problems that she had. She also was an alcohol abuser and would occasionally tell Anene to go find a different place to sleep whenever she wanted to entertain a male companion. When Anene was 14 years old, she refused to go back home after her foster mother had told her to find a different place to sleep. And between the years 2009 and 2013, Anene was living with a friend. When Anene was 15 years old, she was 3 grades behind her peers. She struggled academically, and because she didn't have the financial support and family support, she decided to drop out of school and go find a job. Early in 2013, she and her foster mother reconciled and she moved back in with Collier. Anene had always been a quiet girl. She spent most of the time at home and didn't really go out much. But one thing that did worry people who knew her was the way she drank. By this time, she was only 17 years old and she was already a drinker. Although the legal drinking age in South Africa is 18, it is not unusual to hear of teenagers of Anene's age drinking alcohol, especially in poor communities like Bredasdorp. Bredasdorp is a poor community with seasonal agricultural activity. Most of the people in this community are unemployed and are either on or below the poverty line. Because of the high unemployment rate, most of the people will end up turning to drugs, alcohol, and violence. Some parents can't afford to take their children to school, and so with very little to do, the children also end up turning to drugs, alcohol, and violence, and Anene was no exception. At around 5 p.m. on Friday, the 1st of February 2013, Anene told her foster mother that she was going out to a pub with a couple of her friends. Collier found it strange because she didn't really know Aneen as a drinker, but she just thought that she had probably lost touch with Aneen's interests because they hadn't been together in about 4 years, so she allowed Aneen to go out. But she did tell her to come back by 10 p.m. So Aneen left the house but didn't go straight to the pub. She first went to another friend's house where her other friends were, and the group started drinking. From there they headed out to David's Spot's pub and bar to enjoy the rest of the night. A lot of people that they knew were already there at the pub. Among them were 22-year-old Johannes Kana and 21-year-old Jonathan Davids. Aneen knew Jonathan Davids for years, and it was alleged that they were exes. She didn't really know Johannes Kana that well, but according to her friends, she was attracted to him. When Aneen didn't make it back home by her 10 p.m. curfew, Collier decided to go out to look for her. She and a male friend of hers left the house together. They left the house at around midnight and headed to the pub. When they got there was a group of young people standing outside the pub, and Aneen was among them. Johannes Kana was standing behind Aneen with his arms wrapped around Aneen. Collier decided to approach Aneen and told her to go back home, but Aneen refused, telling her that she would be back home when she was ready. They had a bit of an argument, but eventually Collier gave up and went back home alone. Sometime between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., the group finally decided to split up and head to their different homes. Aneen was seen leaving the pub with Johannes Kana headed towards Asla construction site. At around 4 a.m. on the morning of the 2nd of February 2013, a security guard was inspecting the grounds at the Asla construction site as per his rotational routine. As he was patrolling the area, he heard a low moan. He turned his flashlight in the direction of the sound, and that's when he saw a figure of a woman lying on the ground. He immediately called his supervisor and called for backup. The police and an ambulance were also called to the scene. Aneen was found lying on her back with her pants pulled to her ankles. As the police officer was approaching her, she had tried to get up and fell on her stomach, and at this point the police officer saw something in between her legs. At first he thought that Aneen must be giving birth or something, but upon closer inspection he realized that it was in fact her intestines. The ambulance arrived at the scene shortly after the police did, and the paramedics did try to put Aneen's intestines back inside her through her genitalia, but unfortunately the intestines just came right out. At this point, nobody really knew the extent of Aneen's injuries, but even the doctors that treated her did say that these injuries were definitely among the worst that they had ever seen. Aneen was put on a stretcher and carried inside the ambulance. The ambulance driver had found a striped hat at the scene, so he just assumed that it belonged to Aneen, and he took it and put it next to Aneen on the stretcher, and Aneen was transported to Bredasdorp Hospital. She was later transferred to Tygerberg Hospital, where she succumbed to her injuries. Aneen had a tattoo of her name and surname on one of her arms, and that's how the police were able to identify her and inform her foster mother of the incident. Her foster mother arrived at the hospital before Aneen succumbed to her injuries, and she says that when she asked Aneen who had done this to her, Aneen said that it was Zwei and his friends. A nurse also said that Aneen told her that a group of 6 men were behind the attack. The pathologist who examined Aneen's body after her death said that her cause of death was mutilated genitalia. About 1.2 meters of her small intestines were outside her body through her private part. She said that there were signs of accelerated decomposition to her intestines and excessive damage to her anus wall, indicating that a great deal of force had been used. Her intestines appeared to have already died while Aneen was still alive. She was also believed to have been penetrated using a foreign object because her injuries were simply too severe. Her attackers not only raped her, but they beat up her genital area with so much force that it broke. It shattered and the wall between her anus and her vagina was broken. The doctor said that these were the worst injuries that they had ever seen from a sexual assault. There were also reports that her throat had been slit, her fingers and legs were broken, and that a broken glass bottle had been stuck inside her body. But the court documents don't support this, so I don't really know. After Aneen had passed on, the striped hat was given to the police as evidence because it turned out that it actually didn't belong to Aneen. The investigation actually started even before Aneen succumbed to her injuries. Several of the partygoers were interviewed by the police, and Johannes Skana's name kept popping up as the last person who was seen with Aneen. And so Johannes was questioned by the police on the 3rd of February 2013 at his home. He admitted that he was with Aneen, but said that he had left her at the pub. He claimed that he called out to Aneen's mom and told her to take Aneen home because she was drunk, and then left the pub. The officer noticed that Johannes had an injury on one of his ears, and when he was asked about the injury, he said that he didn't know what had happened to his ear. He had no explanation for it. The officer also noticed that Johannes was wearing a long-sleeved top and had the long sleeves covering his hands, even though the weather that day was pretty hot. He was asked to pull up the sleeves of his shirt, and when he did so, fresh cuts and bruises were seen on his knuckles. When he was asked about those cuts and bruises, he also didn't have an explanation for that. It also turned out that the striped hat that was found at the scene actually belonged to Johannes Skana. By the 8th of February, the police had arrested 3 men, Johannes Skana, Jonathan Davids, and a third unnamed man. Johannes later admitted that he was with Aneen and that he did leave the pub with her. He said that they walked to Asla construction site, and when they got there, they began kissing. He wanted to have sex with her, but she didn't want to, so he started beating her up. She fell to the ground and he started kicking her and eventually raped her. Although he confessed to raping her, he maintained his innocence regarding her murder. Jonathan Davids, one of the guys who was at the pub and was alleged to be Aneen's ex-boyfriend, it turns out that his nickname was Zwei. And if you remember, Aneen did name one of her attackers as Zwei. He also admitted that he was present at the pub on the night in question, but said that he only greeted Aneen and the two of them didn't speak for long. According to him, he left the pub at around midnight and went straight home. He also mentioned that there was another Zwei who was a member of a gang and lived in Zwelicha. The police searched for this Zwei and found that he had actually moved away about a month before the crime. But it was later discovered that the police had actually only searched for Zwei for about 30 minutes. Jonathan Davids also had a scratch mark and blood on one of his shoes, but he had an explanation for that. He said that he had fallen on the day that he was arrested, and that's how he got the scratches. His clothes and Johannes Skana's clothes were also taken to forensics, and the results didn't implicate him. Jonathan also had an alibi for the morning of the rape and murder, and so the state ended up withdrawing charges against him and the unnamed man, as there was really no evidence linking them to the crime. Due to the extent of Aneen's injuries, no foreign DNA could be extracted from her, and so no DNA belonging to either one of the suspects was found on her. But because Johannes had confessed to raping and hitting her, he remained in police custody while the other 2 men were released. In June of 2013, Johannes Skana entered a guilty plea for the rape charge and a not guilty plea for the murder charge. But the judge rejected his guilty plea, saying that if he is guilty for the rape, then he must be guilty for the murder. Johannes was constantly reprimanded by the judge for showing no interest in Aneen's injuries and showing no remorse throughout the trial. There was no physical evidence, and the state's case was based entirely on circumstantial evidence. But because Johannes had confessed to raping Aneen, and because his attorney didn't really provide much of a defense, Johannes Skana was found guilty for the rape and murder of Aneen Booysen, and he received 2 life sentences. 1 life sentence for each charge respectively. There are a lot of things that are questionable about this case though, which is why a lot of people are still wondering whether we can confidently say that the case has been solved and whether justice has been served or not. Firstly, there was a steel rod that was believed to have been the object used to penetrate Aneen, and a bunch of sticks and rocks with blood with them that had been sniffed out by police dogs at the scene. And those things were never presented in court as evidence, so it had people questioning a lot of things. Secondly, Johannes Kana's family believed that he wasn't guilty, and so they hired a private investigator to help them gather information regarding this case. The private investigator and the family alleged that there was an eyewitness who had information about the crime and had gone to the police but was completely ignored. According to them, there were 2 people who said that they had picked up one of the men who were arrested when he was hitchhiking the day after Aneen's murder. The man had a scratch on his face, blood on his shoes, and a bunch of clothes under his arm. He also asked them if they had a plastic bag that he could use to put the clothes in because he was planning on disposing of the clothes. Another 2 people claimed to have seen a group of men washing off blood from a car at a cemetery the day after Aneen's murder. If this is true, this would perhaps support Johannes Kana's claim that he only raped Aneen and didn't really kill her, because there were actually drag marks at the scene suggesting that Aneen was attacked elsewhere and then dragged back to the scene. So maybe Johannes raped her and then left her there. Then Aneen got up and made her way back home but was captured by this group, attacked, and then dragged back to Asla construction site. There were also claims that Johannes Kana had lost his hat during the party and that when he left the pub he wasn't wearing it. So what if he was framed? What if Zwei and his friends did indeed attack Aneen and then planted the hat there to frame Johannes for the murder? But then again, Johannes could have easily been one of the people who attacked Aneen, because according to the victim, she was attacked by a group of 6 men, and Aneen had known Jonathan Zwei for many years and didn't really know Johannes that well. So maybe that's why she only was able to name Zwei and not Johannes. So he could have been one of the 6 men. He also got a tattoo, a gang tattoo, sometime between his arrest and his conviction. So some people think that he was indeed part of the gang that attacked Aneen and wanted to protect the gang by taking the fall for them. But there's also some people who believe that he only became part of the gang and got the tattoo once he was in prison, because he could see that he was going to spend a lot of time behind bars, so he needed the protection. Surprisingly, his family's private investigator also believes that Johannes is guilty, but he thinks that there was no way in which he could have done this alone. So all I know is I believe that this case is not solved. One of the perpetrators was arrested, but there's still a bunch of them out there and they're possibly harming other people as well. So I really don't know how I feel about that. But you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think and let me know all your theories in the comments. If you've watched this video up to this point, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video informative or enjoyable, please don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. And also, if you have any case suggestions for me, please drop them in the comment section down below and I'll definitely make a video about that case. Thank you once again for tuning in. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.